listening to the legendary podcaster, the one, the only, TJamD. Your personal favorite, and the show you've been waiting for. Probably Offensive.
Welcome to Probably Offensive. I am your host, Anthony Scott Dover. Welcome to another exciting episode of Probably Offensive. Today is Monday. I've been trying to do these shows on Sunday, and I've been failing half the time to get them out there. So, to any of you who like listening to this podcast and you're expecting a new episode to be out on Sunday night, I'm sorry about that. I do apologize. I still am going to eventually get to sticking to this schedule of putting shows out on Sunday. It's not been as easy as I thought it would be to just stick to a schedule. All I gotta do is, get what's going on in the news and what's going on in life and in our society, and do the show. So bear with me, but I'm still going to try to put a show out every week. If not Sunday, try to get it on Monday like today. So I know a podcast is different than a radio show. You can listen to this anytime you feel like it. Doesn't have to be, and it's not, you don't have to hear it live, but I'm going to try to put a show out every Sunday. Unless I don't put it out on Sunday, then it'll be Monday like today. Anyway, off to the headlines. For those of you who are wondering, my broadcasting partner, T. Crow, is not here today, but he'll be back. We'll be back doing some podcasts together. I know a lot of you said that you liked us doing the podcast together. It was T. Crow's idea to put it on Facebook. I wasn't podcasting on Facebook Live before, but we'll go back to it though. We'll get back to it. So T. Crow, he's been real busy, so we'll get back to doing the podcast together. Now, there's something I missed last week when I done a podcast, and it slipped my mind, and that was something out of the sports headlines. Was that the Cleveland Indians Major League Baseball team, they're changing their name, and this it actually coincides with something I was going to talk about a little bit later, and that is the politically correct society that we now live in, and it all ties together. It all ties together. The politically correctness of our society, the fact or the point that everybody seems to be, or not everybody, it's usually young people. Older people are not nearly as offended by dumb shit as young people, but younger people seem to be offended. That's where the cancel culture came from, is young people. I'm not talking about kids or teenagers. I'm talking about young adults in their 20s and 30s who pretend to be offended by every little thing. A lot of times I think they're not really offended. There's no way they can possibly be offended by some of the dumb shit that I see people pretending that they're offended by. Now, you got to be able to separate someone being a corporation pretending like it's offended by something because they're trying to promote a product or a movie or a show or something. by saying it's being canceled, by cancel culture, and people who are actually offended and calling for someone to be canceled. These corporations have been taking advantage of cancel culture when they want to draw attention to a product. They say that the product is being canceled by cancel culture, and they're outraged by it. This is outrageous. This is so ridiculous that Mr. Potato Head is being canceled. And really it's the corporation who's put that out there, They got their PR on the scene to put it out there just so they can draw attention to something that doesn't sell anything, like those Dr. Seuss books. Not the most popular ones, not the Cat in the Hat or Green Eggs and Ham. Those books weren't canceled because they actually do make money. It was the Dr. Seuss books that don't make money. They hadn't made money in 30 years. And they decided to discontinue the books, and so the company acted like these books are being canceled. They just wanted to draw attention to their books, really. But other than corporations trying to draw attention and using cancel culture to their advantage, which does work sometimes. I mean, they get a lot of attention sometimes on certain products, especially when nonsensical politicians use it to when Republicans use something that's being canceled or something that's not actually being canceled, but it hasn't sold anything in 30 years, so they can distract you from real real things that are political. They should be political. I can't think of the word, but when there's a real issue, there you go. That's what I was trying to think of. I couldn't think of an issue. When there's a real issue and certain politicians don't want you focused on that issue, they'll use something like cancel culture to get you distracted, to act like they're outraged about something that's not happening and doesn't even matter. But anyway, I digress. The Cleveland Indians are changing their name to the Guardians, the Cleveland Guardians, next year. They're going to go the rest of this season being referred to as the Indians, but they're going to change their names to the Cleveland Guardians. And of course, now people will refer to them as the Cleveland Guardians of the Galaxy, which is popular Marvel comic books and movies, superhero part of the Marvel universe, Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's what I think people are going to refer to the Cleveland Indians as the Cleveland Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that's going to pop up. It can't miss, But the Cleveland Indians are changing their names to the Guardians because of our politically correct society. And you're saying, well, what's that got to do with politically correct society? It's the same reason the Washington Redskins NFL team out of Washington, D.C. has changed their name to the Washington football team, which I've given the Redskins, but of course they haven't heard my idea, that they keep the name Redskins and that they just make their mascot a redskin potato. You can carve them up and make him look like a football player. It's all cut up. You know what I'm saying? A redskin potato. And they could keep the name Redskins. They could just change the mascot. It's no longer a Native American who have been nicknamed Redskins because when the Native Americans, who are referred to as American Indians a lot of times, when the Native Americans, they were out in the sun a lot. And when they were out in the sun, their skin would turn red, just like white people, but only, they're brown. But when the Native Americans were out in the sun, quite often their skin would turn red, and they were referred to as Redskins because they were out in the sun all the time. They didn't live in houses, so they lived in tents and teepees, and they moved around. But the Washington football team, as they are called now, formerly known as the Washington Redskins, they have changed their name to get away from the term Redskins that refers to American Indians, a nickname. I don't know if it was an insult or just an observation. To me, it's not an insult. It just sounds like an observation. The Native, American Indians, their skin was often looked red because they were sunburnt a lot. And if you have any pigment or melanin in your skin, you can absorb the sunlight and not get a sunburn. But after a while, you start, even light-skinned black people start to look red if they're out in the sun a lot. So that's what happens when you're out in the sun a lot, man. It's just easier to see it on white people, when they're out in the sun. But anyway, that's where the name Redskin came from. They used to call Indians Redskins because their skin had a red tint to it, but until the wintertime, then they just looked like, like Mexican people who just happened to be in America, which they didn't call the land America when the Indians were here, when the settlers came, the white settlers. They didn't have any name for the land that I know of, just called it the land. But anyway, the Indians, the Cleveland Indians, are going to change their name to the Guardians. So you heard it. If you didn't know it from me, the Cleveland Guardians will be the name of the Major League Baseball team out of Cleveland. They're changing their name because they're afraid that people will not leave them alone about being called the Indians. Even though this is not India. And when the white people came to America and they thought they had landed in India, like they had gone around the world, sailed. First off, how the hell do you sail around the world in a boat? I mean, it seems like a pretty good distance to rely on the wind to just push your boat across the water. Maybe it's just me, but that seems like a long time, man. But that's what they used to do before they had motors. Is they had sailboats. They just ease the sheet back and put up a few sails, and it pushes the boat across the water, and that's how you get from place to place. I don't know, the wind only seems to